Claire Parker woke to an odd stillness in the house, a tension that made her pulse race for reasons she couldn't immediately name. The morning felt charged, as if it were waiting to reveal something she wasn't ready to face. She tried to shake off the unease while brewing her coffee, but the emptiness of the home without Eric, who had left before dawn for a business trip, pressed down on her. Their small argument the night before lingered, a quiet, exhausted clash of unspoken fears. Claire hated the way it had settled between them like an uninvited shadow. She replayed their last moments together, worried she had appeared more distant than she felt. She distracted herself with chores, tidying the kitchen, folding laundry, but nothing eased the anxious spiral of her thoughts. She wondered if Eric had already reached Toronto and if he had been thinking about the words they left unsaid. Should she have hugged him one last time? Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. It was firm, urgent, unlike any casual visitor she knew. Peering through the small window, Claire froze. Standing on the porch were Eric's three closest friends, Daniel, Mark, and Jesse. They all looked serious, their expressions heavy, and Claire's stomach tightened. They never came unannounced, and certainly not without Eric. "Can we come in?" Daniel's voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable tension. Claire stepped aside, letting them in, her mind racing through worst-case scenarios. The room fell into a thick silence the moment the door closed. She had known these men for years and trusted them deeply, yet their presence felt weighted, as if they carried news too heavy to speak aloud. Jesse approached her first, his eyes softer than usual, almost apologetic. He rested a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Claire," he said gently, "Eric asked us to check on you." Confusion surged through her. Why send friends instead of calling her directly? Mark then handed her a small white envelope. Her heart leapt when she recognized Eric's handwriting. The writing was hurried, uneven, almost desperate. "He wrote this last night," Mark said quietly. Hands trembling, Claire took the envelope, trying to steady herself. She couldn't wait any longer and unfolded the paper. The words inside were raw, unpolished, yet brimming with emotion. Eric wrote about their argument, about how he felt her slipping away, about his fear of not being enough. He admitted he didn't know how to fix things or how to ask without sounding insecure. Claire's throat tightened. She had no idea he carried so much beneath his calm exterior. Looking up, she saw the three friends watching her silently, their concern palpable. "He thinks I'm pulling away," she whispered, voice cracking. Daniel shook his head. "He's scared." "You both are." "He called us from the airport, said he didn't want to leave things unresolved." Jesse added, "He wanted to make sure you weren't alone today." Claire wiped her eyes, feeling both embarrassed and overwhelmed. She wondered why Eric hadn't turned back himself. Why rely on others instead of confronting this together? Mark stepped closer. "He didn't want you to face this alone. He hoped we could be here until he figured out how to reach you." Claire folded the letter against her chest, the warmth of the paper grounding her. Silence hung in the room, broken only by her uneven breathing. When she finally looked up, ready to ask what Eric would do next, another knock rattled the door louder, more urgent. Her pulse spiked. The friends exchanged glances, none expecting anyone else. Steeling herself, Claire opened the door. Relief and confusion washed over her. Outside was no one dangerous, just a delivery driver leaving a package for the neighbors. She stepped back inside, heart still racing, the letter still warm in her hands. The words of Eric's letter pressed against her thoughts. Heavy with meaning. Daniel explained how Eric had called them from the airport, sounding more anxious than ever. He didn't want to leave, but couldn't cancel the trip without repercussions. Eric had written the letter in a rush, unsure of what else to do. Mark reassured her it wasn't avoidance, he simply didn't want Claire to feel abandoned. She exhaled shakily, torn between gratitude and frustration. Jesse handed her a glass of water, a simple gesture of care. Claire sipped, trying to steady herself. The living room, usually warm and lively with the presence of friends, felt heavy with unspoken emotions. She sat on the couch, holding the letter, absorbing the magnitude of the day. Their marriage wasn't in crisis because of the dramatic fight. It was the small misunderstandings that had grown unnoticed. The quiet distance that had left Eric anxious and unsure. Daniel spoke softly, reminding her of Eric's love, that he wasn't trying to guilt her. He was afraid of losing their connection. Mark shared that Eric had been missing their closeness, their late-night talks, her simple gestures of care. Claire's heart ached. She hadn't realized how her silence had been read as distance. Truth settled in her chest. She loved Eric deeply, but had stopped showing it in the ways he needed. And he had stopped checking in as he once did. They had drifted not from lack of love, but from lack of communication. Jessie reassured her they didn't need answers immediately. Eric only wanted honesty and a conversation, not solutions. Claire read the final lines of the letter. Eric feared losing the softness they once shared, but he still wanted to come home to her. Determination rose in her chest. She wouldn't wait. She needed to tell him she wasn't leaving, that she wasn't drifting away. Suddenly, Daniel's phone buzzed. His expression shifted to one of urgency. Before she could ask, the front door opened again. Claire froze. Standing in the drizzle outside was Eric, coat clinging, hair wet, eyes wide and raw. Exhaustion and determination radiated from him. She felt relief and frustration collide. He had run through storms, braved his fear, and come back. His voice was low and urgent. "Claire," he said, carrying months of fear and longing. "I couldn't leave things like this." Tears pricked her eyes, not of sorrow, but of hope. She stepped closer instinctively, hands reaching for his. "We can't fix everything overnight," he admitted. "But I need to hear you, and you need to hear me. I don't want to lose what we have." The rain fell outside, but inside, the room felt suspended in time. Claire thought of every distant night, every silent sigh. Now, standing with hands entwined, she understood. Love wasn't perfection, it was persistence, showing up even when fear threatened to pull them apart. The friends moved back slightly, a silent presence, a reminder that love often had witnesses. "I never stopped," Claire whispered. Eric pulled her into a hug that carried away months of doubt and fear. Warmth, steady heartbeat, relief, all of it settled around her. The house rumbled with thunder, lights flickered, and darkness fell. But in Eric's arms, Claire felt safe, anchored, ready to face whatever came next. Anticipation wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a conversation they had both been avoiding. In the quiet darkness, with the rain tapping against the windows and lightning casting flickering shadows, Claire and Eric were finally present with each other in a way that demanded honesty, courage, and love. The three friends quietly took positions around the room with soft gestures of care, a blanket here, a flashlight there, reminding Claire that love is supported not just by two hearts, but by the hands and hearts of those who truly care. Even as the storm outside raged, the small, dark living room became a place of raw connection, the first step toward rebuilding intimacy tested by fear, distance, and silence. Claire held Eric tighter, feeling both uncertainty and hope, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together with support, honesty, and a willingness to confront the storms, literal and emotional, that sometimes swept through life without warning. The darkness made Claire's heart race, but Eric's steady hands on hers grounded her. She could feel every beat of his heart against her own, hear his quiet inhale and exhale, and sense the raw honesty in his presence. Around them, Daniel, Mark, and Jessie moved with calm efficiency, lighting candles, handing over flashlights, draping a blanket across Claire's shoulders. Their movements were subtle but purposeful, a silent reminder that even in chaos, she was not alone. The people who loved them were willing to support them without stepping into the intimacy that belonged only to Claire and Eric. Swell of gratitude rose in Claire, not just for Eric, but for the friends who had come to bridge the gap that fear and miscommunication had created. Eric's voice broke the quiet, low and full of emotion. I can't fix what's between us without listening to you, without understanding what you feel. I need you to tell me, Claire, what's real for you. Her throat tightened. She realized she had been holding back for too long, afraid that admitting the cracks in their relationship would make things worse. Now, she understood the opposite. She needed to let him in, and he needed to let her in so they could rebuild what had been strained by distance and pride. She looked up at him, finally meeting his gaze, and the words tumbled out rushed but honest. I've been scared, Eric. Scared that maybe you were slipping away. That I was slipping away. That we were losing the connection that made us. U.S., I love you. I always have. But I didn't know how to show it when life felt heavy, when everything felt like too much. Eric nodded, relief and emotion flooding his face. His thumb brushed gently against her cheek. I love you too, Claire. I never stopped, but I let my fears build walls instead of bridges. I didn't want to hurt you while trying to fix myself. The three friends moved closer, but did not intrude. Daniel handed Claire a warm cup of tea. Mark adjusted a candle to brighten the corner of the room. Jessie offered a reassuring look. Each gesture reminded Claire that love often requires not just two people, but a community willing to hold space, support, and witness when hearts are vulnerable. The rain continued outside, but inside, the warmth from the candles, the soft light, and Eric's closeness made the room feel safe, almost sacred. Claire's chest swelled with relief and longing as she leaned into Eric, letting her tears fall freely not from fear, but from release. As the tension and distance evaporated in the quiet intimacy of their reunion, we can find our way back, Eric whispered, but only if we promise to stay present, to talk, to share the small things before they become the big things that scare us apart. She nodded, gripping his hands tightly, ready to commit to the journey. Love was worth every challenge. The three friends stepped back slightly, giving them space while their presence remained a comforting shield, a reminder that love and marriage are strengthened not just by romance, but by support, loyalty, and care from those who have witnessed your growth. Claire realized that letting them in earlier hadn't weakened her marriage. It had strengthened it, showing her that love could be protected, nurtured, and healed with honesty and community. She looked around the room, the soft candlelight, Eric's steady presence, the small gestures from Daniel, Mark, and Jessie, and understood the night's revelation. The shocking part wasn't that her husband's friends had come, but that their arrival had created a space where she and Eric could finally face their fears together. Gratitude and warmth spread through her chest, even in darkness. Love could shine if nurtured with honesty, attention, and courage. Eric gently pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers, whispering, "We'll get through this together, always." Her lips trembled as she smiled, tears still sliding down her cheeks. Relief and hope filled her. She could rebuild the closeness that had been tested but never broken. Outside, the rain softened, no longer frightening, but matching the rhythm of her heart, steady, strong. A reminder that storms, literal or emotional, were temporary, and that love endured when tended. Claire finally let go of the tension she had carried for months and allowed herself to be fully present with Eric, feeling his warmth, hearing his sincerity, and embracing the renewed connection forged by the storm, the blackout, and their shared vulnerability. She understood sometimes love needs witnesses, allies, and small acts of care to survive moments when fear and distance threatened to pull two hearts apart. As the final candle flickered, Claire felt overwhelming peace. She was not alone. Her marriage was not lost. Love had not abandoned her. She turned to Eric, their hands still entwined, and smiled through her tears. "We'll be okay," she whispered, voice full of certainty. He nodded, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, the kind of kiss that carried reassurance, love, and the promise of new beginnings. In that small candlelit living room, with the storm raging outside but calm settling within, Claire realized that love is not just a feeling, it is a choice, an effort, and a presence. One they had both chosen to honor again. The night stretched on, filled with quiet conversation, laughter, and shared confessions, a reaffirmation that hearts could reconnect if given honesty, courage, and unwavering care. As the rain softened to a gentle drizzle, Claire and Eric held each other close, ready to face whatever storms might come next, their love deeper, their connection stronger, and their hearts more open than ever before.